The warning. The briefing room. Lieutenant Zara Keth shifted uncomfortably in her seat as Commander Voss paced before the holographic display. The three-dimensional image showed various ship configurations, but one design made every officer in the room tense visibly. The sleek, angular vessel with its distinctive dual-engine configuration and weapon arrays looked deceptively simple, yet everyone knew what it represented. "This is a human destroyer-class vessel," Commander Voss announced, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "If you encounter anything resembling this configuration during your patrol, you have exactly one option. Turn your ship around and engage maximum thrust toward home base. Do not attempt communication. Do not investigate. Do not hesitate." Zara raised her hand slightly. "Sir, with respect, the peace treaties with Earth have been in effect for 12 standard cycles. Surely the protocols could be updated to reflect current diplomatic relations." A collective intake of breath filled the room. Several senior officers turned to stare at her, with expressions ranging from disbelief to pity. Commander Voss stopped pacing, his four eyes focusing intently on the young lieutenant. "Lieutenant Keth, you graduated top of your class from the academy. Your tactical scores were exemplary. But clearly, your education regarding human capabilities was insufficient." He gestured to the hologram. "Humans do not operate by conventional rules of engagement. They do not honor the same codes of conduct that govern civilized warfare among our species." Zara felt her cheek membranes flush with embarrassment, but pressed on. "I've read the reports, sir, but many of them seem inconsistent. Claims that humans can survive in vacuum for extended periods, that they consume their enemies, that they possess some form of biological regeneration. These accounts contradict basic xenobiology." Commander Voss approached her chair, leaning down until his face was level with hers. "Lieutenant, I served during the Proxima 7 incident. I watched a single human vessel disable 3 Keth consortium battleships in under 10 minutes. Not destroyed, disabled. They could have annihilated the entire fleet but chose not to. Do you know why?" Zara shook her head, suddenly feeling very young and inexperienced. "Because they wanted prisoners for interrogation. They boarded those ships and extracted information from the crews using methods that still give me nightmares. The survivors, those few who returned, they still wake up screaming." The commander straightened. "The peace treaty exists because humans allow it to exist. Never forget that distinction." Solo patrol assignment. 3 days later, Zara found herself alone in the cockpit of her light reconnaissance vessel, the Stellar Wind. The briefing room mornings seemed distant now, replaced by the peaceful hum of her ship's systems and the breathtaking vista of the Kale Nebula stretching before her. Here, surrounded by swirling clouds of cosmic dust and newborn stars, the universe felt infinite and benevolent. Her patrol route would take her along the edge of the nebula, monitoring for unauthorized mining operations or smuggling activities. The Keth Consortium had been increasingly active in this region, despite territorial agreements that designated the area as neutral space. Zara's job was simple: observe, record, and report. No heroics required. She activated her personal log, a habit she'd developed during academy training. Patrol Day 1, Hour 6, currently approaching waypoint Delta 7 at the nebula's northern edge. All systems nominal. No contacts detected. The nebula's interference is making long-range scanning difficult, but that's expected in this region. A proximity alarm chirped softly. Zara checked her displays, noting a faint energy signature approximately 2,000 kilometers ahead. The reading was inconsistent, fluctuating between active and dormant states, possibly a disabled vessel or automated beacon. Unknown contact detected. Signature suggests possible distress situation. Investigating as per Search and Rescue Protocol 7. She adjusted her course toward the signal source, maintaining standard approach procedures. As she drew closer, details began to emerge through the cosmic interference. The vessel was larger than her scout ship, but smaller than a typical merchant hauler. Its design was unfamiliar, featuring smooth curves instead of the angular aesthetics favored by most spacefaring civilizations. More concerning was the complete absence of identification signals or response to her standard hailing frequencies. First contact. Unknown vessel. This is Lieutenant Zara Keth of the Vorthan Republic Navy. Your ship appears to be in distress. Please respond on standard emergency frequencies. She waited, watching her scanner display for any change in the mysterious ship's status. Nothing. Zara maneuvered closer, using her ship's external lights to examine the vessel's hull. The design was definitely alien, but not from any species she recognized from her xenobiology studies. The hull material appeared to be some form of advanced composite, darker than space itself, and seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible damage, no signs of mechanical failure. Her communication panel suddenly activated with an incoming transmission on a frequency she'd never encountered before. The voice that emerged was unlike anything in her experience, not the harmonic tones of Vorthan speech or the clicking syllables of Keth dialect, but something entirely new. Vorthan vessel, maintain your current distance. We are conducting sensitive operations in this area. Zara's training took over despite her surprise. This is Lieutenant Keth. Identify yourself and state your purpose in neutral space. Your vessel's configuration is not registered in any diplomatic database. A pause, then what might have been quiet laughter. Of course it isn't. We prefer to keep a low profile in this region. The voice carried an accent she couldn't place, with strange inflections that seemed both musical and dangerous. Turn around, Lieutenant. Return to your patrol route. Forget you saw anything here. Something about the tone triggered a memory from her briefing. The casual confidence, the assumption of authority, the underlying implication that resistance would be futile. Her mouth went dry as realization struck. You're human, she whispered. Very good, Lieutenant Keth. Yes, we are human, and you are in violation of your own military protocols by remaining in our vicinity. The voice carried a note of amusement now. Shouldn't you be running? Every instinct screamed at her to follow Commander Voss's instructions. Engage maximum thrust, flee to safe distance, report the contact. But curiosity had always been Zara's weakness, and now it held her frozen in space, staring at the impossible ship before her. Why aren't you attacking? She asked, surprising herself with the question. Another pause. Why would we attack a reconnaissance pilot who poses no threat to our operations? The human sounded genuinely puzzled. Lieutenant, whoever briefed you on human behavior clearly provided incomplete information. Incomplete how? Zara found herself leaning forward, despite every regulation that demanded she retreat immediately. We're not the monsters your people believe us to be. At least, not all of us. The transmission quality shifted, becoming clearer. My name is Captain Sarah Chen of the vessel Redemption. We're currently engaged in a rescue operation that your presence is complicating. The rescue operation. Rescue operation. Zara's scanner showed no other vessels in the area. I'm not detecting any distress signals except what led me to your position. That's because the distress isn't being broadcast openly. Lieutenant, what do you know about the slave trade operating out of this sector? The question hit Zara like a physical blow. Slavery was abolished throughout civilized space over 50 standard years ago. The Universal Rights Declaration prohibits. The Declaration prohibits legal slavery. Captain Chen interrupted. It says nothing about the black market operations that continue to flourish in neutral zones like this one. The Keth Consortium, for instance, has been particularly active in acquiring research subjects for their biological programs. Zara felt sick. The Keth Consortium was a legitimate scientific organization, respected throughout the galaxy for their advances in xenobiology and medical research. That's impossible. The consortium operates under strict ethical guidelines. Does it? The human's voice carried a hardness now. Lieutenant, approximately 40 kilometers behind my position, there's a consortium research vessel designated the Scientific Progress. According to their filed flight plan, they're studying cosmic radiation effects on mineral formations. Would you like to scan them and tell me what you actually detect." Despite her training, despite every warning she'd received, Zara adjusted her sensors and directed them toward the coordinates Captain Chen had provided. The readings that came back made her stomach churn. The research vessel was indeed present, but her deep scans revealed biological signatures that shouldn't exist on a mineral research mission. Dozens of life forms, representing multiple species, confined in what appeared to be holding cells. "Those readings," Zara began, "are exactly what you think they are," Captain Chen finished. 63 beings from 7 different species being transported to illegal research facilities in the Outer Rim. Some are political prisoners. Others are simply civilians who were in the wrong place when consortium acquisition teams needed test subjects. Zara stared at her scanner display, trying to process this information. But why would humans be involved in stopping this? According to our briefings, your species is expansionist, aggressive, concerned only with your own interests. Some of us are, Captain Chen admitted, but others believe that strength should be used to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We've been tracking consortium slave operations for 2 years now, disrupting their supply chains and freeing their prisoners. The choice. You're asking me to believe that everything I've been taught about humans is wrong. Zara's voice was barely a whisper. I'm asking you to consider that, like every species, humans are complex. We have those among us who would exploit and destroy. We also have those who choose to defend and preserve. The human's tone softened. Right now, Lieutenant, you have a choice to make. You can follow your protocols, retreat to safe distance, and report this encounter. The consortium vessel will complete its journey. Those prisoners will disappear into illegal research programs, and your conscience will be clear because you followed orders. Zara looked at her scanner again, seeing the biological signatures that represented dozens of innocent lives. What's the alternative? Help us. Your ship's security codes can override consortium vessel locks. We can free those prisoners and escort them to safe harbor, but we need your assistance to access their ship without triggering their automated distress signals. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. Everything in her training said to flee, to report, to let proper authorities handle the situation. But what if the proper authorities were compromised? What if the consortium's influence reached into the highest levels of government and military command? "If I help you," she said slowly, "I'll be violating direct orders, interfering with what appears to be a legitimate research mission, and collaborating with humans against my own people's interests." "Yes," Captain Chen replied simply. "You will." Zara closed her eyes, thinking of Commander Voss's warnings, of the peace that came from following orders, of the safety that came from never questioning authority. Then she opened her eyes and looked at the scanner readings showing 63 imprisoned beings whose only crime was being vulnerable. "Tell me what you need me to do." The truth unveiled. The approach. Captain Chen's instructions were precise and professional. "We'll approach the scientific progress from their sensor blind spot, using your ship's legitimate patrol credentials to request a standard inspection. Once we're in range, your security override will disable their communication arrays. My team will handle the boarding and liberation of the prisoners." Zara felt her heart racing as she maneuvered her ship toward the consortium vessel. Through her viewport, she could see the human ship Redemption moving parallel to her course, its dark hull barely visible against the nebulous backdrop. The vessel's design was even more impressive up close, combining elegant lines with clearly visible weapon systems that spoke of both beauty and deadly capability. Scientific progress. This is Lieutenant Keth of the Vorthan Republic Navy, conducting routine patrol inspections. Prepare for standard compliance verification as per neutral zone regulations. Zara's voice was steady despite her nervousness. The response came quickly from the consortium vessel. "Lieutenant Keth, this is Dr. Marcus Webb, mission commander of the Scientific Progress. We are engaged in time-sensitive research. Can this inspection be scheduled for a more convenient time?" "Negative, Dr. Webb. Inspections must be conducted when encountered. Please prepare for boarding." Zara moved her ship closer, noting the Redemption positioning itself on the opposite side of the research vessel. As they closed the final distance, Captain Chen's voice came through their private channel. "Ready, Lieutenant. On my mark, execute the override sequence." Zara's hands hesitated over the controls. Once she activated the security override, there would be no going back. She would be committed to this course of action, regardless of the consequences. Mark. She pressed the activation sequence. Immediately, the Scientific Progress's external communication arrays went dark, their emergency beacon disabled, their distress signals blocked. They were effectively isolated from any outside assistance. The boarding. What happened next challenged everything Zara thought she knew about human military capabilities. The Redemption extended docking tubes to 3 different points on the research vessel simultaneously. She watched through her sensors as human figures moved through those tubes with a speed and precision that seemed almost supernatural. "How are you coordinating 3 separate boarding teams without communication equipment?" she asked, fascinated despite her fear. "Humans have certain advantages," Captain Chen replied cryptically. "We'll explain later. Right now, we need you to monitor for any approaching vessels while we complete the operation." Through her scanner array, Zara tracked the human team's progress through the research vessel. They moved with purpose and efficiency, neutralizing security systems and accessing restricted areas with minimal resistance. What struck her most was the apparent restraint they showed. Her sensors detected no weapon discharges, no signs of violence or destruction. "Captain Chen, I'm not reading any casualties aboard the Scientific Progress. Are your teams encountering resistance?" "Minimal resistance, no casualties. We prefer to avoid unnecessary harm." The humans' response came through clearly despite the supposed communication blackout. "Dr. Webb and his staff are being confined to their quarters until we complete the prisoner transfer. They'll be released once we're clear of the area." Zara found this incomprehensible. Every story she'd heard about human military operations emphasized their ruthless efficiency and disregard for enemy casualties. Yet here they were conducting a complex boarding operation while taking care to minimize harm to their opponents. The prisoners. Her contemplation was interrupted by movement on her sensors. Figures were being transferred from the research vessel to the Redemption, dozens of them, representing multiple species based on their biosignatures. As they passed near her ship during the transfer, her external cameras caught glimpses of the freed prisoners. What she saw made her feel physically ill. These beings showed clear signs of medical experimentation, surgical scars, implanted devices, the hollow look of individuals who had endured prolonged suffering. Among them, she recognized Vorthan features, Keth physiognomy, even what appeared to be members of the reclusive Zephyrian collective. "These aren't research subjects," she whispered. "These are torture victims." "Now you understand." Captain Chen's voice carried a grim satisfaction. "The consortium has been operating illegal experimentation facilities throughout this sector. They acquire subjects through various means, sometimes purchasing criminals from corrupt judicial systems, sometimes simply abducting civilians from remote colonies." One of the prisoners, a young Vorthan female who couldn't have been much older than Zara herself, looked directly at her ship as she was helped aboard the Redemption. The gratitude in her eyes was unmistakable, but so was the trauma that would likely haunt her for the rest of her life. "How long has this been going on?" Zara asked. "At least 5 years that we can document. Possibly longer." Captain Chen's response was measured, professional. "The consortium has powerful friends in many governments. Official complaints and investigations tend to disappear into bureaucratic delays until the evidence is gone and the witnesses have vanished." The consortium response. Zara's proximity alarms activated suddenly. 3 new contacts had appeared at the edge of her sensor range, approaching at high speed. The vessel configurations were unmistakably military. Consortium enforcement ships designed for police actions in neutral space. "Captain Chen, we have company. 3 consortium enforcement vessels, closing fast." "We see them, Lieutenant. Transfer is 90% complete. Can you buy us another 5 minutes?" Zara looked at her tactical display. 3 military vessels against her single reconnaissance ship and the human vessel. The odds were impossibly poor, and she was already far beyond her legal authority. I'm not equipped for combat against military vessels. You won't need to fight them. Just delay them. Captain Chen's voice carried absolute confidence. Hail them on standard frequencies. Assert your authority as a Vorthan Republic Navy officer conducting a legitimate inspection. Demand they maintain distance until your operation is complete. Against her better judgment, Zara opened a communication channel to the approaching ships. Consortium vessels, this is Lieutenant Keth of the Vorthan Republic Navy. You are interfering with an ongoing inspection under neutral zone regulations. Maintain your current distance. The response came from the lead enforcement ship. Lieutenant Keth, you are exceeding your authority. Stand down immediately and prepare for escort to the nearest consortium administrative station. I am operating under legitimate patrol orders in neutral space. You have no jurisdiction over Republic Navy operations. Zara was surprised by her own conviction. Your ship is in direct violation of established treaties by interfering with authorized research operations. If you do not comply, we will be forced to disable your vessel and take you into custody. The threat was clear, but before Zora could respond, Captain Chen's ship moved between her reconnaissance vessel and the approaching enforcement ships. The Redemption's weapon systems activated, painting targeting locks on all 3 consortium vessels simultaneously. Human military prowess. What followed was a masterclass in tactical superiority that would haunt Zora's dreams for years to come. The Redemption didn't fire its weapons. It didn't need to. Instead, it demonstrated a level of technological sophistication that rendered the consortium ships effectively helpless. Electronic warfare systems disrupted their targeting computers. Engine interference patterns caused their propulsion systems to operate at reduced efficiency. Communication jamming isolated them from each other and from their command structure. In less than 2 minutes, 3 modern military vessels had been reduced to sitting targets. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Navy vessel Redemption. Came the broadcast on all frequencies. Consortium vessels, you are in violation of the Interspecies Treaty on Forced Medical Experimentation, Article 15. Your research vessel contains 63 beings held against their will in violation of Universal Rights Declaration, Section 7. The response from the lead consortium ship was immediate and angry. Captain Chen, you are operating outside Earth Navy jurisdiction. Your actions constitute an act of war against legitimate scientific research. Our actions constitute law enforcement in neutral space. The evidence of your violations has been recorded and will be transmitted to appropriate authorities in multiple governments. Captain Chen's voice carried the authority of absolute moral certainty. You have 2 options. Return to consortium space immediately, or be disabled and escorted to the nearest Republic Navy base for formal charges. Zara watched her sensors as the 3 consortium ships struggled with systems that no longer responded properly to their commands. The technological gap between human and consortium capabilities was staggering. These enforcement vessels had been rendered powerless without a single shot being fired. The revelation. As the consortium ships slowly retreated, their systems gradually returning to normal function, Zara found herself alone with questions that challenged everything she believed about galactic politics. Captain Chen, how did you know about this operation? How did you coordinate your response so precisely? Lieutenant, the network of beings working to combat illegal trafficking extends far beyond humanity. We have allies in every major government, including your own. The humans' response was careful, measured. The intelligence that led us to this operation came from Vorthan Republic sources. The implication hit Zara like a physical blow. Someone in our government knew about this. Someone in your government has been tracking consortium activities for months. The official policy is to gather evidence before making accusations that could destabilize diplomatic relations. Unofficially, certain individuals have been working with us to intervene directly when time is critical. Zara felt her worldview crumbling. Then the warnings about humans, the protocols about running from your ships, are designed to protect civilian personnel from becoming involved in operations like this one. Captain Chen finished. Most of our people, are better served by maintaining the illusion of species separation. It's easier to function when you believe the galaxy is divided into clear categories of friend and enemy. But it's not that simple. Nothing ever is, Lieutenant. Evil exists in every species, but so does the determination to fight against it. The question you need to answer now is what you're going to do with this knowledge. The choice ahead. As the Redemption prepared to depart with its rescued passengers, Zara found herself facing a decision that would define her future. Return to base with a fabricated report, pretending this encounter never happened. Report the truth and potentially expose a covert network of beings working to combat trafficking, or find a way to become part of the solution rather than simply a witness to it. Captain Chen, if I wanted to help, if I wanted to be part of this network, what would that require? The pause before the response suggested this was a question the human had hoped she would ask. It would require you to become someone who operates in the shadows, who accepts assignments that don't officially exist, who works with beings from species that your government considers potential enemies. It would require you to trust your conscience more than your orders. Zara looked at her scanner one last time, seeing the biological signatures of the rescued prisoners aboard the human vessel. Beings who would now have a chance at freedom because someone had been willing to act outside official channels. When do I start? Captain Chen's laughter was warm, completely unlike the cold efficiency Zara had expected from a human military officer. Report to your base as scheduled, Lieutenant. File a routine patrol report. Nothing unusual encountered. All sectors clear. Within a week, you'll receive new orders for a special assignment. Those orders will be legitimate, issued through proper channels, but they'll be the beginning of your real education. As the Redemption vanished into the nebulous depths, its rescued passengers safely aboard, Zara began composing her official report. Patrol completed without incident. No contacts encountered. All sectors clear. But she knew she would never again be the naive officer who had left base 3 days ago. She had seen the truth behind the warnings, the complexity behind the simple categories of friend and enemy. She had learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could encounter wasn't a monster, it was the opportunity to become a hero. The universe was far more complicated than anyone had taught her, but perhaps that complexity made it worth fighting for.